always think about this when you're taking on new clients, especially buyers. Are they a good fit? And who has the power? Like, they don't have all the power just because they're looking to transact. That doesn't mean you have to be desperate for business. It has to be a mutually beneficial decision. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to In the House podcast. I'm Toni.
Good morning. I'm Jenny Woon.
Our topic today is getting the buyer's agency agreement signed every time. Fun topic.
Well, I think it is worthwhile to do this topic just because there are so many fears around this particular contract.
Why do you think there are fears around this contract?
Okay, for one, there's a line item that states how much commission we are to earn.
Yes.
And we are paid to talk, to have awkward conversations like this. But in this episode, we're going to give you some tips and strategies on how to approach your buyer or this particular buyer before they become your client to commit to signing to you.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you are wanting a client to see value in the services that you offer, it's very important to highlight your value proposition. So what does this look like? It really means that you're showcasing your expertise and emphasizing your specific knowledge about local markets, your negotiation skills, and your track record for successful, happy clients.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when those questions are answered, if we're working with buyers here, they're going to have greater confidence that you'll also be able to represent them and secure their dream home or their investment property.
Yes.
Another way to highlight your value proposition is to discuss the exclusive benefits. So offer access maybe to exclusive listings that are perhaps not on the open market. I mean, isn't it a special premium experience to be able to get buyers in for something that's not advertised openly to the public? And, early bird opportunities too, for if it's a sales center, sales site, sometimes it's just a very limited, specially procured number of people that can get in. Insider information. Yeah.
I want to also add as well, nothing to do with the value proposition, but
Sure.
There's a difference between a buyer/customer and a customer buyer that has turned into a client, okay? Someone who is not working with you exclusively, who have not signed a binding agreement with this buyer's agency exclusive contract, is considered to me just a customer.
That's right.
When you're getting them to commit to another level, you are working with them one-on-one. So another way to position this is that, yeah, I work with a lot of customers. I work with a lot of buyers, but anyone who has an exclusive agreement with me gets my guaranteed number one priority.
Absolutely.
And access to all the exclusive listings that I have, insider information. If your criteria is very similar to another customer's criteria, who will get the priority? The person who is the actual client who has signed the agency exclusive contract.
Great point.
So buying real estate can be so rewarding. And we want you to form that bond. We want you to highlight the fact that it's going to be an amazing journey when you go through the process working with an agent like yourself.
I mean, the other thing too, right? I think that this is common among a lot of realtors, especially when we started. I don't think buyer's agency agreements were as commonly used, were they? Because I did always used to use one.
I would say it was probably more common before and not as common now.
Okay.
I think I don't know who's teaching at the board or maybe BCFSA puts a little bit of fear into presenting this. But I would say make it as part of your business model. I'm not going to work with you until you actually commit to working with me.
Well, this is the thing that I wanted to touch on is that it actually speaks to an agent's self-worth as well. Do you feel that the services you're offering are consistent with what's outlined in your buyer's agency agreement? I mean, come on. I'm going to swear right now because this is how strongly I feel about it. It can be very fucking difficult to negotiate and secure an amazing piece of property for a client. For those of us that have done it or not done it, like there's so many due diligence items and a multitude of making sure that the clients looked after well in due diligence. We deserve to get paid. And so if you have that expertise and knowledge and you are confident in your skills and abilities and your ability to look after the client in the best way that you possibly can, there should be no difficulty getting this agreement signed. It's a professional service, much like a lawyer would take a retainer. We're not even taking a retainer here. We're just asking that we're paid for our services as we should be.
Right. And there could be some business models that you want to take a retainer.
Of course,
for some
yes.
reason, like we don't work. I don't know why we don't take a retainer.
So
we should.
I would love to change that in this industry because honestly,
yes.
no, I've talked about it with my team before.
Mhm.
I was like, real estate is the only profession where it's more commonplace to say, hey, you know what, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Buyer, yeah, I'll just work for free. Pay me when it's done. No, if you're a true professional agent and you spend loads of money on education, making sure that your skills are sharp in every area, staying up to date on legislation and working with the best, that's a lot of time, money, resources, effort, and it's a professional service. We should get paid.
I think you are on the right track here. So if we were to actually dock the number of hours, like my accountant, they dock the number of minutes, how long they write an email. There's so many, like I can spend hours on producing an email on just explaining my reasoning for listing a property. So if I was to actually dock the amount of minutes I'm working on one email or on a property or on a client, I could most likely make a lot more money than what the actual commission is made. Yeah. But let's just say we do. And then if they have a problem with it, we can deduct it on the back end once the sale is done.
For sure. But that's the thing. Why we're not working for free. If you're a professional, you're not working for free.
Mm-hmm. So, but I also want to reference back to when you said we deserve it.
We do.
You paused a little bit. I was actually thinking in that moment, a lot of reasons why agents don't use or are hesitant to use this contract is because they think they don't deserve it.
But this is why I brought it up.
Yes. But I wanted to dig a little bit deeper is that it's not because you're feeling awkward on using this contract. It's because you don't know how to position your values. Or let's just say you created a client relationship, but you're still sabotaging yourself into, do I deserve this client? Do I deserve this commission? Do I even deserve to be in this industry? Yeah. So there's so many things that you have to really get over this mindset obstacle here. But as realtors, we're trained to provide valuable assistance. And so this particular agreement with your buyer turning into a client is that you're identifying different types of properties so for them to acquire. You're being able to locate properties available to view and consider. You're putting together tours. You're selecting the right property to be able to help them prepare the offer, creating a legal binding contract. And on top of that, you're arranging property inspections, other services, finding ways for them to get suitable financing, and then even just afterwards, the service that you're going to provide after the sale. So these are just the top 5 or 8, 10 things that you have to do. But the emotional support that we don't get
so
paid
invaluable.
for.
Invaluable.
Yeah.
Sorry, we talked about highlighting your value proposition. We went into that a bit early, but that's okay. The second purpose.
Yeah, building trust and rapport. So when you're taking the time and showing genuine interest in their needs and understanding their preferences and concerns, what are the opportunity losses if they don't move forward, when you're showing that true, genuine interest of how you're going to be a very solutions-driven agent, they're going to build more trust with you. It's not about you. It's not about your timing. It's not about what you want. It's about really helping them. Okay. And so how does this relate to the buyer's agency exclusive agreement? to me, what you're doing is letting them know what your duties are as an agent. And when you outline everything in part of the schedule, which is at the back of the agreement, a lot of the terms that are already pre-written in the contract is to show the client what you are already committed to do on top of the fiduciary duties, on top of the confidentiality, on top of being loyal. It outlines really like the day-to-day things that you're working with this client.
Yeah. I think you just touched on it right now, Jenny. So it's really important if you're wanting to work with a buyer client and you would like them to, or you want to increase your success of getting them to sign the agreement, you would have to touch on educating the client on what are the agreement's benefits, like clearly defining what your role is in helping them with their purchase is an important part in showing them the value that you're bringing to the table, right? So clarifying terms and conditions and clearly explaining why the buyer's exclusive agreement, like what it entails and why you've created this really agency relationship and it highlights your responsibilities. It allows the buyer to feel calm in knowing what they can expect from you. Like, what is it that they're getting? I think that if buyers are not going to sign this agreement, it's because they don't have clear expectations on like, what is it that you as my agent are going to do for me? When it's explained in the way that you had just highlighted in confidentiality, like with the fiduciary duties in addition to the Schedule A in the exclusive buyer's agency agreement, it does make sense. Like if I'm the buyer, I know then what Jenny's providing to me. It actually makes sense. You're looking after my best interests. You're keeping my privacy and personal information confidential. You understand my needs for what I'm going to purchase, and I can rely on your professional advice. Great.
Mhm.
Then I'm more likely to sign this agreement.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm most likely going to work with you.
Yeah.
I think as well, you want to, like any other profession, working with a lawyer, working with an accountant, you are going to be signing an agreement as to what their role is and what your role is, that you're going to be providing utmost, the real receipts, like the
Mm.
most accurate information you can, so that the accountant can do their job. So I would also say that there is a section in the agreement where the buyer also has to agree.
Mhm.
You agree to provide the agent with as much sufficient information so that they can do their job. You agree that you will disclose, your identity, your like photo IDs. You agree that it's up to you to seek professional advice if
Mhm.
you're looking for tax information. You're also agreeing, as well as the buyer, that you are going to do everything you can to fulfill and validate all the conditions that are written in the contract. So, in a way, it's a two-way street on the
Yes,
trust
it is.
process, right?
It's very clear. And
Yeah.
this agreement outlines it and sets the expectations early for the relationship.
I want to mention, let's talk about the commission part.
Yeah.
So you had something that you wanted to bring up. There is a section in there that says the buyer will pay the buyer's brokerage a fee of, and there's a blank for us to write in the fee. Okay.
Yeah.
And I want to mention, this is the part that a lot of people get stuck on and difficulty explaining to their clients.
It's
So,
confusing.
and I don't like to say to my clients, well, it's not you paying for me, it's the seller
Seller.
that's paying for me. But no, in reality, indirectly, the buyer's paying for you because you're paying for the home that you're purchasing. Okay.
Mhm.
So let's get that straight. Secondly, you shouldn't be saying that, because what if you find a home that is a for sale by owner? What if you find a home that is an exclusive listing where the seller is not willing to pay anything? So the buyer, has to pay you a finder's fee.
Mhm.
So this particular agreement is enforcing that at some point, however the money's going to come in, that you providing a service, you will eventually get paid.
Yeah, I think that so I've always had a problem with the way that that clause was worded, and I think they've actually improved it recently. But it is a bit confusing, especially on a first client meeting where maybe the buyers haven't purchased before. They have a really difficult time understanding the difference between like how maybe, let's say, even 95% of the commissions are paid to a buyer's agent. Let's say it does come through the listing side, right? It's advertised on the listing. And then explaining to them in some cases, if it's a for sale by owner where the seller is selling the property themselves, and or if it's an exclusive listing where it's not actually open to the public, there's alternative ways in which you as the buyer's agent would need to be paid. I think though, what it comes down to and what we need to focus on here to set it up for success is that ultimately, regardless of who pays, the buyer is hiring you for a service. So great. If the listing agent is going to be paying the buyer's agent commission and it's covered under that, wonderful. And if not, you could just pose the question to the buyer. It's like, given all of these things that we've discussed today about due diligence, what's important for you to successfully acquire your home or your dream property, would you agree that there's an element of professional service, skill, and negotiation that needs to happen in order to set you up for success? If yes, then regardless of whether or not the commission's paid by the seller, the buyer should pay it, right? Because it's a service. I don't know. I do have a problem with the clause though.
Do you rewrite it and maybe put it into the Schedule A portion?
Yeah. Just for clarity, because we've noticed that if it's the first time a buyer is we're going over this with them and they're really new and they've never done it before, it's confusing to them and they get really confused.
So I know that sometimes you send a pre-listing package to your sellers. Do you send a pre-buyer's package?
Sometimes,
before meeting with them?
We did this recently with a really nice young married couple. They were first-time home buyers. Also, one of them was high analytical. So remember I said for high analytical people, yes, because it's too much for them. So in advance of the appointment, we set the expectations in the email stating that, okay, we're looking forward to meeting you in person at the office at this day and time. And these are some of the forms we'll be going over in addition to the process and what it's like to work with us, basically, right? But then it's not the first time they've seen it and it's really helpful in moving everything along.
So another way to maybe approach this is there is a timeline that is set in the agreement where you would put in the starting date, a commencement date, and then when it expires. And so this is a great way to say, well, this is a trial period between you and me. I'm on probation. You're giving me an opportunity to work with you. Maybe you as an agent don't even want to work with that client after a while as well.
For sure.
Right? Like sometimes that energy is better short term. So why don't you put in a term of contracts? So how long do you typically write in the agreement?
Oh my gosh.
Like
if it's a
6 months?
first-time home buyer, it's a year. Because
Yep.
because we all know, and again, this isn't anything bad, right? It's a process. It's a lot of education. It also depends on personality style because you can get a first-time home buyer that's a driver personality or they just need the information, they'll make a decision, that's it.
Right.
And it doesn't take that long, but for first-time home buyers, it's normally a year. And we have done it before where there's more of a trial period, but more so it's because we weren't sure as well if we could work with someone. Just,
Right.
sometimes you can't
It's
really
two-way
tell.
street.
And it's like, just because you want to buy something, that doesn't mean we're going to take you on. Also, same thing with listings too, right? It's like you want to list something, that doesn't mean I'm going to list your home.
Right.
So guys, always think about this when you're taking on new clients, especially buyers. Are they a good fit? And who has the power? Like they don't have all the power just because they're looking to transact. That doesn't mean you have to be desperate for business. It has to be a mutually beneficial decision.
Absolutely. And I want to also mention there's a market section as well as part of the agreement.
Yeah. What do you put in there normally?
Actually, it's very open.
Metro Vancouver, Fraser Valley.
I don't put specific neighborhoods.
You can because it can change.
It can change. And we've given examples in our previous episodes where someone was looking in West Vancouver, North Vancouver. My clients ended up all the way in Coquitlam on the east side.
But that's also part of the buyer process, right? You're trying to help them through education based on what they've said is important to them. And sometimes you need to shift and lead.
Right. So I would highly also suggest that if they are working, looking to, let's just say they're relocating, you've sold their home and they're relocating to Vancouver Island. You don't have the expertise to work in Vancouver Island, but you want to refer them to an agent who you work closely with. So I would also put that in writing that you have the rights to refer them to another agent and receive a referral fee. It's very clear communication that maybe when you sold their home, you need dates to work. So there's going to be continuous communication on maybe trying to adjust dates in the long run. So we're in a situation right now where they want to, possibly move dates 10 to 15 days earlier. And now we have to reopen that contract again. So, that's a lot of time off my hands.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So, that's great tips, Toni.
You too, Jenny.
Offering a trial period. And this can range between 3 months, 6 months, a year. It's really up to you, gauging in terms of how much motivation and how much urgency you're going to create in that relationship. And finally, providing excellent service from the very start, from the time you're already interacting with them before they're a client. Providing you during this process, once they turn into a client, you're providing them with insightful market analysis. You're scheduling time property viewings in a timely manner. You're going to fulfill everything that you have outlined in the Schedule A, delivering everything that you promise. And how they're going to know this is because they were referred by another client, or maybe you've had successful case studies that you want to share with your clients because you have the proprietary systems in place to be able to work effectively and efficiently with every client.
For sure.
Yeah. And the responsive communication, I find, again, in another episode I outlined, it's very important to outline exactly how you like to get communication between you two. Yeah. So is it by WhatsApp? Is it by text? Is it by voice text? Or are you going to be making phone calls regularly? Outline the communication system in your agreement.
100%. And, our hopes for you guys by listening to this episode is that by implementing these simple 5 strategies, you can effectively demonstrate your value and build trust and encourage buyers to sign an exclusive agreement with you, because that does ensure their commitment to you and your commitment to them in terms of working as their realtor.
There's possibly conflicts of interest that may happen because you may double up on some of the same clients that are
looking for the same thing.
Property.
That happens.
So
I'm like,
it
oh my
absolutely
gosh.
happens. And then what happens is you end up having to release one of them. There's even forms for that. So that's another episode. But I really want
should do an
you
episode
to
on that.
encourage you to use this form, because not only does it outline the buyer's commitment to you, but it also outlines what you promised to them. And it's so important to be integrous in this industry that you're working with buyers, their life savings.
It's
right.
a really big responsibility.
Right. And being an advisor to this, it's really important that you are holding to the nature of this position as a professional, upholding that you're collecting personal information and you have privy to their personal information about their situation. So it's really important that you stress and you review every single line item for yourself so you know the purpose and value of this agreement.
Absolutely.
Present it during your buyer's presentations. I wish you guys all the luck. And what's a bonus that we can offer them on this?
If you're going on a listing appointment, actually, you should sometimes bring this with you, because you should do it at the same time. I know it's a lot of information, but essentially most people that are selling or buying, and most likely you're going to represent them on both sides. So you may as well lay the groundwork early for everything, get it done, and set it up for success.
Good point. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to like and share this episode with your colleagues. Thank you.